It was late, around 2 a.m. Everyone was home besides me. Usually there were more people than just me, but I was working extra hours, and it wasn't busy at all. I had no calls for 20 minutes, then I got this call, so I answered it. Hello? Thank you for calling TD Bank. This is Philip. How may I help you today? I said. There was a silence. Hello? I said. Still, no answer. So, I waited 1 minute and was about to hang up. Then, I heard someone say, "Get out of there while you can." Then, they hanged up. At first, I thought it was just a little weird, but didn't think too much about it. So, I just put down the phone and continued to the rest of my night. A couple minutes later, I heard a noise downstairs. I was a little scared because from what I thought, I was the only person in that contact center. So, I went to go check it out, and then I heard the window shatter, as if someone threw a rock through the window. So, I ran to the bathroom to hide. I pulled out my phone to call the cops and realized that I forgot it at my desk where I sat. Should I go for it? I asked myself. Then I hear footsteps and they get closer and closer to me. I look down and I see someone's feet. My heart is racing and I feel as if it's the end of the world for me. Door starts to open. I shut my eyes, then open them and realize it's my boss. Thank God, I said. I felt so relieved. My boss said the cops are on their way. I told him how thankful I was to see him. As we're walking out, I asked my boss how he knew I was in danger and how he knew where to find me. I asked that because there are multiple bathrooms, so even if he knew I was in the bathroom, picking the right one would be odd. He said that he saw everything through the cameras. He then told me to go home early. As I'm leaving to go home, I don't see the cops. The cops would come the same way I was going home, and I still didn't see them. I get home, then it hits me. He knew where to find me. He somehow got there before the cops did, and the camera near me has not been working for the last month. So, I called the cops, and they arrested the men and my boss. It was all a setup. My boss was in it. The contact center had a secret safe of money, and that's what they were going for. I wonder what would have happened if I noticed what was going on before I got home. Would I still be here? Well, I'm happy things turned out the way they did. Nobody got hurt, and justice was served. I went on the dark web because I heard a lot of cool stories about it. I just couldn't resist. All of my friends were talking about it and I just had to go check it out. I saw some really creepy stuff on it and I guess I was on stuff on the dark web that I shouldn't have been on. So I shut down my computer and resumed to my normal life. The next morning, I heard a loud knock on the door and what sounded like the police. So I go to the door and open it. The police are there. They ask me if my name is Henry, and I tell them yes. That's me. They then arrest me and take me to jail. I'm 18, so I just made the cut for the adult jail. I was told that I was getting arrested because of my activity on the dark web. My parents tried fighting it, but there was nothing that they could do. I was only in jail for a couple months, but still, I was so young and I was frightened. Every day, I felt like I was in danger and just wanted to go back home. The jail I was in was a small jail. I guess it was for the inmates that were in for minor crimes and who were supposed to be getting out within a couple of months. We had more freedom. We worked outside and wasn't treated as badly since we were only minor criminals. One day, we were sent outside to work, the 5 of us inmates with only 1 guard. Usually, there would be 2 guards, but the other guard for some reason couldn't make it. So, we were all working, and 2 of the inmates tackled the guard, and then the other 2 go help the inmates, and the guard is out cold. At this time, I only had 1 week before I was leaving, so I wasn't really trying to get in any trouble. The 4 inmates started to make a run for it while the guard was unconscious. In a split second, I ran with them. I knew I shouldn't have, but my mind ran wild and I just did it. Looking back, I probably should have just stayed, but then they could have blamed me and I could have got a longer sentence. so I decided to take my chances. I ran home and I see my laptop on the dark web page, and then I see my mom and dad. They asked me why I'm out early, and my dad smiled, and then they gave me a hug. After a couple of minutes of talking to them, the door slams open and it's the police. They tackle and arrest me. As I'm walking out, my dad apologizes for calling the cops and thanks me for taking the blame. As I'm on the way back to the jail, I put the pieces together. My dad has my laptop on the dark web website. He smiled and thanked me for taking the blame. I then realized that it was my dad who was doing the illegal things on the dark web using my laptop and not me. A couple months later, I go back home and there's nobody there. They packed up their things and moved. I don't know where they are to this day. I've never seen them again. It was a Saturday night. My parents went over to my neighbor's house to drink and hang out, which meant I was alone at home. I was pretty bored and wasn't old enough to drink, so I thought I could try to invite my friends over. But none of them were allowed over, so I tried doing other things to keep myself busy. The doors weren't locked, so my parents could get in, since they were next door. I got bored and it started getting late, so I decided to lay down in my bed. And before I knew it, I was fast asleep. I woke up because I heard banging on my front door. I was really confused because my door wasn't locked and I expected it to be my parents because it was really late at night. It was around 2 a.m., so I got out of my bed to go see who it was. Weird enough, it was my mom. She asked if I can put her to sleep since she wasn't feeling too well. I said, that's fine, and I went to go put her to bed. I asked her where Dad was. She said she didn't know. I put her to bed, said goodnight, and went back down to my bed to go back to sleep. I was a little confused because my dad usually would come home with my mom. So I texted my dad asking when he would be home. My dad replied telling me that him and my mom will be home very shortly and apologized for being home this late. My heart dropped. I texted my dad that I just put my mom to bed. He said, that's impossible. She's with me. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. I'm looking right at her now. I texted my dad to come home right away. As soon as they got home, I told my dad everything that happened. He looked at me in shock. We went upstairs to my parents' room to check who that person was. When we opened the door, there was no one there. My dad thought I was playing with him, but I told him that I wasn't. That I was being serious. He laughs every time I bring it up and says, you got me good. I never found out who that lady was. It honestly still haunts me to this day. But all I know is the next time my parents leave the house, I won't be staying home alone again.
I was given a painting for my birthday, and it showed a family in the 18th century eating around a table. There is an eerie legend behind this painting, and basically, you are not allowed to stare at this painting at all. I found that to be crazy because all paintings are made to be looked at, so when a painting exists where you cannot stare at it, it has that artsy feel. So I put this painting where all people could see it and stare at it, clearly going against the legend behind this painting. As visitors and family members in my family kept going past the painting, looking at it every time they went out the door or when they came in, the painting started to become more sinister. It was changing from its original look. Have you ever had that feeling of not wanting to be stared at, but people were staring anyway? It's not a nice feeling, is it? Anyhow, the painting now showed the father of the household stabbing the mother so he could hide behind her dead body, protecting him not to be stared at. After a couple of days, it then showed the sister stabbing the brother so that she could hide behind him to not be stared at. I wish I had hid the painting so it could not be stared at. I became more intrigued as days went by when I found that objects and furniture had somehow moved towards the painting to cover it up. Even the paint on the wall which the 19th century painting hung on started to change colour. I also found newspapers and other forms of paper just randomly floating towards the painting to cover it up. Even when the painting showed the father hiding behind the dead members of his family so that he could not be seen, I still hadn't learnt my lesson. I learnt my lesson when my 2 kids and wife woke up blind with bleeding eyes. To this day, doctors cannot figure out how they went blind, but I guess the painting can now feel more comfortable and not being stared at. Anyone else from the outside who stared at the painting suddenly got damaged eyes with bad vision. I had a little peek at it recently, and the painting has gone back to normal, with the family members eating around the table. My name is Tim, but I have a secret identity that only the top secret agencies in the world knows. Well, a few of them anyway. People talk about Illuminati and the New World Order, but the truth is, what my latest mission is going to unravel is something a lot more sinister. There is a facility in the outbacks of Arizona, and I am given the job to break their security system, get inside their lair, and uncover what exactly it is they are hiding. I have no idea what I'm going to find in here, but I use my coding skills, stealth skills, and so much more to get inside the building. There are high-tech alarms and lasers I have to pass. I watch out for CCTV cameras to not get caught in any of their line of view. I am told the center of operations is in the main building, so I finally enter. I jump as I see myself on a giant screen. I was dodging cameras and alarms, and now that I'm in the most important part of the building, I see people watching me on a giant screen. One of them turns and has a sinister smile on their face. I freeze knowing that there is no way out for me. He begins to speak. Well, there now, don't be afraid. You're the biggest, best secret agent out there, aren't you? What name do you go by? Agent Beyond? You were given that name at your training facility where you trained to become a secret agent, and you did above and beyond what you were asked, so that's how you got the name Agent Beyond. I was wondering how he knew so much about me, knowing all that information was classified top secret. I was wondering how could it be an inside job. He then began to speak again. You have just stumbled onto the biggest scientific breakthrough in human history. Well, your history, that is. You see, I am Jasper. I am from a post-human civilization with vast computing power, and I know you were sent here to seek information on what it is we do. Let me explain to you, but I must warn you that you will not be able to tell your friends in your secret agency, or anyone else for that matter. You see, humanity isn't ready for what I'm about to show you, and what I'm about to tell you. I know you wouldn't be here only for a handful of tech billionaires smelling the scent of what actually was happening, But let me tell you, as I said, me and everyone in this room besides you are from an advanced post-human civilization with vast computing power, and we run simulations of our ancestors in the universe. Earth is just a tiny piece of the game, but saying it in plain English, reality, as you know it, is a simulation, and we knew it would come to a stage where someone would find out. So I'm sorry, Agent Beyond, but you will be erased from the simulation now. Tony was looking forward to his job interview as an interior designer for a new design firm that was advertised as a futuristic, ambitious company with a vision that is to provide stunning interior design in housing and public buildings. The interview was held in the city in a block of apartments. He knocked on the door and was greeted by a man with a grey beard, and the man welcomed him in. When they were both sitting down, the man said, "Welcome to my company. I am delighted to let you know my company is like no other company in the world of interior design." The interview went on for about 10 minutes when I was given a task. It was very strange. The man said to me, "Here is your task. You are going to enter a room next door and you have to design it all to look beautiful, and when it's fully restored and designed, then you can exit the room." Tony found it very strange but agreed. When he entered the room, he realized the window was broke and all the walls were all dirty, and the strangest thing was no paint, no brushes, nothing to do it up. So he wondered, how could he restore and design the interior? Before he could ask the man, the door was locked. Tony was in the room for about an hour and he was panicking when something very strange happened. He noticed there was paint appearing on the walls, as if an invisible person was painting it. When the wall was painted, he felt like he was going to faint. Then suddenly the windows that were broke fixed by themselves. He felt like he was going to curl over in pain. Then suddenly a light appeared on the ceiling and a table and flowers appeared. The room looked beautiful, he thought. Then suddenly he fell. The door opened and the man checked his pulse, confirming he was dead. Tony did exit the room, just like the man said, but he didn't exit alive. The more the room was being decorated by an evil force, the more life was being sucked out of Tony until he died. The man looked at his book to see who next was for the job interview. Peter walked into his local video shop one night in 1985. He noticed the man behind the counter looking at him strangely. He was looking through the horror section and got a fright when the man walked near him and said, "I know you like horrors. I have a horror you must see. It's behind the counter. Let me get it for you." Peter said, "Sure, yes, of course. I'd be looking forward to see it." When Peter walked up to the counter with the man, he saw two teenagers giving them a strange look. He wondered why. When Peter got home and watched the video, he couldn't believe his eyes. It was CCTV footage of outside the video shop of a person being killed. It was dated a month ago. Peter has a condition where he just chills out in his house for days and doesn't meet anyone. He just goes out and rents a video every few days and that's it. The most horrific thing about the CCTV footage of the person that was killed was that the person was Peter. He now realised that he knew the guy who worked in the video shop had a reputation of contacting the other side, and now it hit him why the teenagers were looking at them. They weren't looking at them, they were looking at him, wondering why he was talking to himself. Could this be true, he wondered, if he was a ghost? Because if he was shot in the head outside the video shop a month ago, how could he be alive? Peter walked out of the house, waiting for the next person to pass to confirm was he alive or dead. And with that, the next person passed after Peter asked what day was it. But they just passed and didn't hear nor see him. Peter now knew he was the person killed in the video, and he was a ghost. The relationship between me and my wife had turned strange a couple of weeks ago, and I am not sure what happened exactly. A month and a half ago, my wife came screaming into the living room, shoving a picture into my face. She kept on shouting, "Who is this younger woman you were with?" And I calmly told her that the younger woman was her. She then looked at the picture and realised that it was her when she was in her early 20s. We were both in our 40s now, and she cried and apologised, and we made up. Then, a couple of days later, she barged into our bedroom and was shouting at me to explain the photo of me with a younger woman. I tried explaining to her that the younger woman in the photo was her when she was younger. She had a knife in her hand, but I kept control of that hand that she had gripped the knife with. She then realised that the young woman in the photo was actually her. Something wasn't right, and I decided to go through some old photos together of both of us in our younger days. As we were going through the old photo book, my wife would scream and shout at me in a murderous tone every time she saw me in a photo with her when we were younger. Then she would apologise when she realised it was herself in the photo, and it was incredibly unusual. Then I started doing it myself. As we were looking through the old photo book, I would go angry and accuse my wife of cheating when I would see a photo of her with a younger man. But the younger man is me. I would then apologise straight away. Going through that old photo book had constantly made me and my wife shout at each other and accuse one another of cheating until we both realise it is just our younger selves. We have burnt all photos. Susie was feeling down as she had no cell phone for a whole 3 days. That might not be a long time to most people, but to Susie it felt like a whole month. She missed being able to scroll down news feeds and swiping through pics, etc. on social media. She knew it would take her a long time to save up for a new phone, so she decided to go into the local pawn shop to see could she pick up a second-hand one. She settled on a cool new-looking phone and paid her money and walked home. She couldn't wait till she got home to check it out, so she turned her phone on and was surprised a logo popped up on the screen right away. It was a circle with W in it. She just assumed it was some sort of app, so she clicked on it. That night she was sitting down watching TV, enjoying a good thriller movie, when her phone screen lit up. She checked to see what the notification was. She dropped her phone from her hand when she saw what she couldn't understand. It looked like a very pale woman's face came very close to the screen, and there was an awful sound came from her phone. She put the phone down again and continued to watch the movie. Suddenly it lit up again. This time she was hesitant in looking to see what it was. But when she did, the W logo popped up on the screen again. She tried to go into it, but when she did, it said, "We are currently in private beta. Please enter password if you have one." I realized by looking at the top of the screen, it was an app called Whoop. I checked the Google store to see was the app there, but there was no sign of it. I was going to go back to watching the movie, but I decided to Google Whoop app. I was shocked when I read what came up. It said, Whoop is a musical and social media app that was under development. The creator, Sarah Bell, and sole owner, was violently killed on Friday night while going for what seemed like her nightly walk. No suspects are being questioned at the moment, and there is no motive. The homicide is still under investigation. What I saw underneath the article sent shivers up my spine. It was a photo of a woman that looked exactly like the woman that popped up on my screen earlier. I went into her photo gallery and panicked when I saw many photos of the woman who was murdered. I turned off the phone, wondering what was happening and what exactly was that short little video I saw. I knew it was her, but was it actually a video of her being murdered? And why did it pop up in the phone when I didn't even touch it? I jumped in my seat when I saw my phone light up again. I panicked big time this time, knowing I had just turned the phone off. I was reluctant picking up the phone, but when I did, the words, "Be careful," were on the screen. Then as soon as I saw them, they had disappeared. I heard a noise at the door and thought it was my mind playing tricks on me until I heard footsteps. I knew now there was someone in my house with me. I felt a freezing shiver run up my spine, and a lightheadedness with a mixture of fear and panic consume me. Suddenly a figure appeared in my room. I was expecting to see the woman who got killed standing there, but it was a man. The man spoke. "Well now there, don't be frightened. I had to kill that bitch because she stole my unique software for her app. You see, I was her partner before she got greedy and wanted to take full control of the app. You might wonder why I'm here and how I found you. Well, you can thank the wonder of technology and those great Find My Phone apps. I was just on my way to the pawn shop today when I realized someone had bought it. It made things so much more awkward for me, knowing that I will have to kill another person this time, a person I don't even know, to retrieve the phone. You know that if they got this phone, well then they would get me as the killer. You might ask why I didn't take the phone with me that night. Would you believe I took her damn wallet thinking it was her phone? But then again, maybe that made the cops think it was some random robbery. I froze in fear, wondering what he was going to do to me. Suddenly the phone made a sound, as if I got a new message. Then the screen burst into pieces, and a piece of glass stuck in the man's eye. Blood came squirting out. Then a hand came out of the screen and choked him to death. Who is Short Story 1? He is a horror writer who writes on horror subreddits on Reddit. His stories are vastly unique and sometimes don't even make sense. He has had a couple of popular short horror stories that was well upvoted and lots of Reddit users had commented on. Short story hardly ever replies to comments, and one theory suggests is that he is a mental patient in an institute for the insane. Some even suggest that he has had multiple brain surgeries and was even experimented on. This would explain for Short Story 1's weird plots that don't make sense, because insane people don't make sense. Another theory is that Short Story 1 is 1,000 years old, and because he has lived a long, so long life, his stories are a reflection of what he has experienced throughout the ages. This would also explain why his grammar is terrible, because language has changed so much in the last 1,000 years, and Short Story 1 has failed to keep up. Another theory is that Short Story 1 is an actual alien that is just having fun with the humans on Reddit. Short Story 1 being an alien would explain so much about his writing and why it's so absurd. Maybe Short Story 1 is lost in our planet and has no idea what he is doing at all. Short Story 1 is maybe an alien that has transformed into a human and is struggling dealing with the human mind and emotions. The last and most likely theory is that Short Story 1 is artificial intelligence robot and someone experimenting the robot by letting it write stories on Reddit and seeing humans react to it. As we know, technology is evolving so fast, and robots in the future are now a strong possibility. Driverless cars have evolved so much, and Short Story 1 might be a robot that can imagine. Who do you think Short Story 1 might be? Have you read his stories?